If I didn't have Hansel at my side and he didn't give me that alert, I would have never taken the sample. With his nose, he broke this case wide open and we were able to connect all these dots.
Welcome to Warm Fuzzies, a new podcast from Daily Paws. I'm Karman Hotchkiss, your host, and a certified cat lady, but don't tell my dog. On today's show, we're chatting with Tyler Van Leer, fire marshal with the Millville, New Jersey Fire Department. Millville is located on the southern tip of New Jersey, and Tyler, who was born and raised there, is here to talk to us about a very special member of his team, Hansel, an adorable pit bull who also happens to be the department's crackerjack arson detection dog. Hansel, yes, he's named after the fairy tale, actually detects accelerants used in arson. He is the first pit bull to be certified in arson detection in the country. He's also Tyler's and the department's first working dog, meaning Hansel's on the clock like the rest of the department. But the two have a bond as deep as it goes. How they got there is an extraordinary tale. Just listen. Welcome to Warm Fuzzies. I'm Karman Hotchkiss, and we have with us today Fire Marshal Van Leer. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you work and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Carmen, for having me on here. It's a tremendous opportunity. I enjoy talking about my little guy, Canine Hansel. My name is Tyler. As you stated, I work for the Millville Fire Department in Millville, New Jersey. I've been on the job for 11 years. Being a fireman, it's the best job in the world. I wouldn't ask for a better career. So now that I have Hansel, it's really, really kicked it into the next level.
How long have you and Hansel been partners?
So January of 2024, we will be a certified team for 4 years.
That's a nice long partnership. When did you meet Hansel?
September of 2019, Hansel was brought to the fire department and we conducted a meet and greet to see if Hansel would take to me and I would take to him. As soon as that little guy jumped out of the car, we locked eyes. The bond was instant. But the dog chooses the handler. And fortunately, Hansel chose me.
How old was he at that point?
When we started the academy, he was supposedly 4 years old.
And he'd had a pretty interesting life up to that point. And I don't mean that necessarily in a good way.
So Hansel, unfortunately, was born into an alleged dog fighting ring in Ontario, Canada. Hansel did not fight. He was just a tiny baby at the time. The dog fighting ring was stopped and the pit bulls were seized. In the province of Ontario, it's illegal to own a pit bull. Most of the time, the dogs are just euthanized because they're deemed a danger to society. So a rescue in Canada called Dogtails Rescue and Sanctuary, they got wind of this alleged dog fighting ring, and they started to fight the legal system in Ontario. Because, like I said, all these dogs were slated for euthanasia. Within, I want to say, 2 years, they won the fight, and the dogs were ordered out of the province of Ontario by the judge. Hansel and 5 others were relocated then to a rescue down in Florida called Dogs Playing for Life. This is where Hansel started his transition in life. Well, Hansel has tremendous energy. He has tremendous work ethic, and the trainers saw this potential. And they were like, why don't we try Hansel in a working dog position? Let's see what he can do. Dogtails Rescue and Sanctuary and Dogs Playing for Life contacted an organization called Throwaway Dogs Project. This organization was founded by Carol Skaziak, an amazing woman. She takes misunderstood dogs and gives them a second chance in life. She met Hansel and 5 other pit bulls. Her and her team tested them, and Hansel and the 5 others passed with flying colors. So she then made a program called Pit Bulls for Police. This program is meant to donate pit bulls to police department that would like a canine, but they just don't have the funding to get the dogs. So that's where Carol Skaziak of Throwaway Dogs Project comes in. She fills that void. So she accepted Hansel and the 5 other pit bulls into her Pit Bulls for Police program. And then she started networking and reaching out to departments and saying, this is how I can help. So I believe Hansel was the second from the last to be adopted.
He was waiting for you, right?
He was, right. I mean, it's
Fate was putting that together for you.
correct. And then, so as fate would have it, a very good friend of mine, he was a canine officer for like 21 years. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, this is what the fire department's looking for." So he reached out to Carol, and she knew Hansel was right for this particular job.
So at that point, he was not specifically an arson dog.
So Hansel was in the canine world considered a green dog. So he could have been trained in anything. He could have been trained in narcotic detection. He could have been trained in explosives. He wasn't considered an arson dog until we graduated the academy.
What are some of the things that you do in that kind of training to get a dog ready for the kind of work that Hansel does?
So the Canine Academy was 16 weeks long, 16 weeks of scent school. So from week 1 all the way to week 16, we were imprinting him on different odors that are associated with arson, and the trainers were teaching him how to properly pattern a room. Hansel's imprinted on 14 different odors, from hydrocarbons to acetones to alcohol-based accelerants. So the way we imprinted Hansel, we put 1 drop of accelerant on towels, like hand towels, and we rolled them up and we taped each end. Hansel is what we call play reward. So what we did was with the towels, we were playing tug of war. We had to do 100 towel tosses for him to be imprinted on that odor. What that does is Hansel is associating play with that odor. Okay, so he's like, "Oh, this is great. If I smell this odor, Dad's going to play with me." After the 100th towel toss, we then put that same towel in a room. I walked Hansel into a room and started to search with him. So they're like, "Okay, watch his behavior change when he comes up to this odor." So sure enough, they hid the towel with gasoline just in a nightstand. And Hansel was sniffing. I could hear his breathing changes. And when he came across that nightstand, his behavior changed. He went from walking, running, going back and forth to really searching this nightstand. He was not leaving this nightstand. He knew that that odor that he knew was there. So Hansel's final alert is sit. That tells me that there's something here or in that location, and then that's how I take samples.
Does he get called out to every fire, or are there certain situations where maybe arson is already suspected and then you bring him out? What's the process of him being brought to a site?
That's an excellent question. So it could happen both ways. We're on call 24/7. So a fire could go out 5 minutes from now and we're going. If arson is already suspected, then he's going to be deployed. If the scene isn't safe for him, I'm not going to deploy him. What I'll do is I'll take certain items out of the house and have him sniff in the front yard as compared to bringing him into a potentially unstable house. Other departments can also request Hansel. Hansel's a good deterrent. If people see him roll up on a fire scene, they kind of think twice because most arsonists return to the scene. They want to see their work.
And he's good at what he does.
Yes, ma'am. And I've been told by multiple people that it makes them feel a little bit more safe.
We're taking a quick break. But when we come back, we'll hear how Hansel cracked his first serial arson case. And boy, was it a doozy. You won't want to miss this. Be right back. Welcome back to Daily Paws Presents Warm Fuzzies. I'm Karman Hotchkiss, and today I'm talking with Fire Marshal Van Leer about his pit bull, Hansel. Tell us about the first time that you took him to a scene. How did that play out?
We had a few large warehouses in the center of town here. It was city-owned property. There was no utilities. There was nothing. So we thought that the buildings were vacant to the point where there was nothing even in them to burn, but we were mistaken. Unbeknownst to us, the neighboring business owner relocated pallets of glass bottles into the city-owned building. So we had a warehouse fire. Immediately, I started thinking this could be a potential criminal act. There's literally nothing that could have caused a fire besides some kind of human intervention. It's not like an outlet started this fire. There's no utilities. There's nothing. I was going to deploy Hansel in this warehouse. However, due to all the glass bottles shattering, it was too much of a hazard. Our local police department said, well, when we first showed up, the building behind this warehouse had an orange glow in it as well. But it wasn't on fire when we pulled up. It already put itself out. So we had a large warehouse and a smaller building behind this warehouse, two potential targets. I deployed Hansel to the smaller building to see if he could pick up anything. Hansel immediately got an odor. He sat. I took samples and I sent him off to the New Jersey State Police lab because each sample has to be analyzed and confirmed before they could be submitted in the court of law because we have to make sure that he's indicating properly. So the results came back as lighter fluid. A couple months later, he had another warehouse fire right next door to the one that originally burned. The engine captain told me, he goes, we entered the building and then it just seemed like everything lit off all at once. It's a pretty good indication that there was ignitable liquid because everything just lit off, he said. It took us 12 hours to extinguish that fire. We were getting ready to wrap up, and I get a call over the radio stating that there are detectives at the gate wanting to talk to me. These were detectives from out of county. He goes, there's a bigger problem altogether. And my heart just instantly just sank. I was like, oh no. It's never good when you have another municipality come into your municipality and say, hey, your fire is similar to ours. So this is where Hansel really came in clutch. It was a proud dad moment. Remember how I said Hansel had an alert that was confirmed scientifically by the New Jersey State Police lab of lighter fluid? The accelerant of choice for the arsonist was lighter fluid. That's how we were able to connect the fires. With Hansel indicating and getting back scientifically, really opened this case up.
The Hansel angle, ultimately, his lighter fluid alerting is what helped connect all these things?
Yes, ma'am. If I didn't have Hansel at my side and he didn't give me that alert, I would have never taken the sample. With his nose, he broke this case wide open and we were able to connect all these dots. In the end, 4 individuals were arrested and ultimately put behind bars because of how he put me in the exact area where the lighter fluid was poured. That was the case that really put Hansel on the map. I still to this day brag about it. Like I said, it was a proud dad moment. And he has not stopped since then. I could talk for hours on this guy.
So we know he's smart and he's hardworking and he's got a great sniffer.
Right.
What's Hansel like when he's not on duty?
So Hansel is able to flick that switch from being in work mode now to being in social mode. Hansel doesn't stay in the house with me. He's out in his shed kennel. He has his own AC. He has his own heat. The only thing it's missing is a TV. So it's literally a miniature house. And believe it or not, Hansel actually prefers it out there. It's quiet. He can decompress from work. He has his own play area. He has his sleep area. And it's all locked up. It has cameras 360 degrees around it. A lot of people ask me, does he mingle well with your personal dog? So I got 2 others that live with me. They're my personal dogs. He interacts well. He has no problems. My wife will bring him in. She'll cuddle with him, spoil him a little bit, and then he goes back out to his kennel. However, he's a working dog. So we have to make sure that he kind of stays on the straight and narrow until he retires. And then once he retires, he comes in the house. And then he can get spoiled all he wants.
As lazy,
right.
As lazy as he wants to be.
He can lounge around all day long if he wants after he retires. But when he's not on duty, he's just a normal dog. And a lot of people, they view it as, oh, he's a canine. He's always working. That's not the case. He has downtime. He's probably sleeping right now. But when he hears my pager go off or he hears our work truck turn on, he flicks that switch. Okay, we're going back to work.
What's his official title?
So in the canine world, he is a single purpose scent dog. So mainly all he does is use his nose. That's it. The official terminology, ignitable liquid detection canine.
Could we meet Hansel?
Absolutely. I will definitely bring him in. It might sound like a herd of elephants coming down the steps. That's just him. That's just his goofiness. He's just a huge goofball. And he'll just be licking me all over my face and give me 1 second. Come here, buddy. Right. Come here. Come here. Oh my goodness. What are you doing? So this is canine Hansel. So he doesn't like sitting in places for very long. Come here. Yeah, so this is where the high energy comes in. So this is what you want in a working dog that, he doesn't want to stay on one place. Hansel, come here, buddy. Get on my lap. Oh. So this is Hansel here. So he is 50 pounds soaking wet. Oh boy. So he's actually surprisingly being pretty good right now. Thank you. Thank you. So Hansel, he has a huge blockhead. He's got wrinkles on his forehead. He's perfect size for when it comes to Arson work because he can fit in all the nooks and crannies. I've had him go under sinks in like kitchen sinks in the cabinet. He's just a good boy all the way around. I wouldn't trade him for the world. It's something about him. He just gives off good, positive vibes. He's just such a goofball. He really is. You hit that tickle spot on his side of his rib cage and you have a friend for the rest of your life, you know?
Well, you guys are obviously a really great pair. And, you're lucky you found each other.
Yeah.
And certainly your community is
Absolutely.
really lucky to have a good working pair like you.
Oh, yeah. I would not ask for a better partner.
Fire Marshal Van Leer. I feel like I've learned so much today and certainly have a soft spot in my heart for pit bulls and what they can bring to society. And I just appreciate you sharing Hansel's story with us, as well as helping us learn so much more about what being a working dog involves. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, not a problem. I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm a proud canine handler of a dog who was going to be euthanized, not even given a chance. And he's proven that he is a great canine partner.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Daily Paws Presents Warm Fuzzies. Be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and we'd love your feedback. If you could rate this podcast and leave us a review, we'd really appreciate it. You can also find us online at dailypaws.com/warmfuzziespodcast.